We're back. Now, people rather often assume that body image issues are gender specific, affecting only women. However, that is a common misconception. Men can be affected as well. Brian Cuban, the younger brother of Mark Cuban, is working to change that by sharing the story of his own battle with body image and eating disorders.
Overweight and troubled since he was a young teen, followed by almost fatal drug and alcohol addictions, and an intense dislike of his own image. Now he's written a book about his painful past to try to help others like him. Because from the outside looking in, he had a happy childhood. Growing up in Mount Lebanon, he was the second of 3 boys. He says other children bullied him about his weight, and by college, he developed anorexia and bulimia. Even plastic surgery couldn't change his distorted image of himself. When he realized his drug and alcohol abuse was going to cost him his girlfriend and perhaps even his life, he sobered up and sought treatment. Now he's hoping the story of his journey will help other men out there like him.
Well, the book is called Shattered Image, My Triumph Over Body Dysmorphic Disorder. And we're pleased to have Brian Cuban with us this morning to tell us more about his story and recovery. I got to read the back of the book. Now, this speaks volumes. Brian Cuban is living with an enemy that has haunted him for over 30 years, his own reflection in the mirror.
That's right.
That speaks volumes right there.
That's right. It's called body dysmorphic disorder, and it's a disorder that's been around for over 100 years, but really only been studied for the last 5, in depth, where people are coming forward and getting treatment. And it's basically when you take a small or non-existent defect in your body, and for me it was my stomach, because I was bullied over my weight. I had some fat shaming at home, a difficult relationship growing up with my mother. And by the time I was in college, every time I looked in the mirror, I had this overwhelming feeling that no matter how skinny I was getting, I had this huge stomach, and it affected my ability to socialize, with girls, or even just in social circles. I ended up getting plastic surgery. You hear about that a lot.
So you got rid of the stomach with plastic surgery?
No, I got rid of plastic surgery. I had liposuction, hair transplants, all kinds of other stuff. But it still didn't change how I felt. I became anorexic, and then I became bulimic. That stuck with me for 27 years until I was 45 years old. None of it helped. And throw in drug addiction, steroid addiction. Finally, I got so hopeless that would never change. When I looked in the mirror, that was all I would ever see, that I became suicidal, only to be really saved at the last second before I took my own life by my 2 brothers.
So what did they do?
I was at the point where I had I got a gun, and they came in my house, and I had that .45 automatic on my nightstand.
What?
Yes, and it was that close.
So what kind of help did they get you, and what was the turning point for you?
The turning point didn't come until maybe about 6 months later, because if you address it, like addiction or anything, if you only address the behaviors and don't address how you got there, you can end up just keep cycling through all these things. So there were some more low points, and the aha moment, like people say, is when I was standing in the parking lot of a local Dallas psychiatric facility for the 2nd time.
Okay.
With my girlfriend, and I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? I don't have a 3rd time back here. I'm either going to be dead, or most of that, my girlfriend was going to leave me. And the thing that terrified me the most, that absolutely just frightened me, was I was going to lose my family. I thought I was going to lose my family. I was going to lose the love of my brothers, my father, because my father was the middle of 3 children, and he raised us, Mark, myself, and my younger brother. Brothers, always stick together, always love each other, never abandon each other. He pounded that into us every day. And standing there in standing there in that parking lot, I was thinking, you know what? Family may love you unconditionally, but there are conditions on their limits to willingness to see you destroy yourself if you're not going to get help. And standing there thinking about what my father had drilled into us, and thinking that I was going to lose that was enough. I'm like, you know what? I have to get some help. I have to just take some step into recovery, just even the smallest step. And the next day, that was April 8th, 2007, April 9th, 2007, I went into my psychiatrist, who I'd been treating with for a few years, and lying. Just say, I'm depressed, it's okay. He didn't know anything about the eating disorders, the body dysmorphic disorder. which I really didn't understand myself. And I told him everything. I told him everything, and I finally took the first step in recovery, which is getting honest. Getting honest about where you are, getting honest about how you got there. And once I did that, then I could take another step. The next day, I went in and I talked to my father, who lived right down the street from me. My father, who was in his, at that time, his late 70s, who didn't know anything about this. My dad didn't know about the eating disorders, about the drug addiction. And I said, Dad, I got to talk to you. And I told him everything. And I was finally that 11-year-old boy that was bullied at school, that was fat shamed at home by his mom, who finally got to sit down and tell his father all the things he wanted to tell them back then, but was afraid, because when you're 11 years old, you don't talk about those things, especially back then. This was in the 70s. Because you're afraid, because your father is your security. Your father is the person sleeping next to you at night that tells you everything's okay. So you internalize it. You don't tell anyone. No, I'm not your brother, not your father. I was finally having that conversation that I wanted to have all those years ago. And he said, Brian, I love you. We'll get through this. And I got the answer I wanted. That was the next step. And then there were just continued small steps of recovery, sometimes steps backwards, a lot of therapy, a lot of exploring with my mom, her role. It's not about fault. I had to, she was.
You just have to address it.
You have to address
Don't blame.
it. And it's not about blame. Life happens. I was very lucky because I had a mother who was willing to explore how she got where she was and how that affected me. She had been fat shamed by her mother. And a lot of these things are often generational. And I was lucky because a lot of families don't have that. The parents shut down, denial, not my fault. If my mom hadn't been willing to take that journey with me, I don't know where it would have led. It may not have led to me sitting here today.
Well, how difficult was it for you to flush all this out, to sit down and have these conversations with your family and to put it on paper?
It wasn't as difficult as it was. Once you decide to let it loose, it's not as difficult. It wasn't as difficult as being a drug addict and being an alcoholic, and looking into the abyss of suicide. Once I was able to start expressing myself, and through even expressive writing, blogging, and then came the book, it's a cathartic experience. And a lot of these books start out like that, as cathartic experiences. And once I got to that point, I'm like, you know what? There had to be a greater purpose for this. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I wanted to. I never felt that was what I was here for, and there had to be a greater purpose. So I'm going to use my pain and what I went through and what I learned to help let other guys know, even other women know, you're not alone. Body image issues happen to men. Eating disorders happen to men. 15 to 20% of all people with eating disorders are men. 800,000 men will suffer from bulimia in their lifetime. But men don't come forward. This is
all new information to me.
Yeah, and men don't come forward
right,
because you think it's a woman's disease. And we're brought up that way. Men are strong. Men don't have body image. Men don't have fat days.
Men don't cry.
Clint Eastwood doesn't have a fat day, right?
Absolutely right.
And so that's how we're taught. That's how society has developed in the United States. So men internalize these things. I know guys who haven't told their wives they have eating disorders. A guy said to me once, you know what? I'd rather admit I'm a heroin addict than admit my eating disorder. That's how shameful it is, and that's how stigmatized it is for men. And so I'm hoping by talking about it, by sharing my experiences, the addiction and the eating disorders, that I'll let other men know you are not alone. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to take that one step forward into recovery and get help. You will not be judged.
What's been the feedback from people who've read the book and people you've spoken to? I guess you speak publicly?
Yes, the feedback has been great. The feedback has been great. I get emails all the time from men and women say, thank you. I thought I was the only one. And I get them from women too. The woman's a little different. It's developed differently. It's a little easier to speak up because it's portrayed a little differently in the media as well. It's a little more open. That's another thing that I'm involved with, in getting the media to portray eating disorders, as an equal type thing versus just women, and which is one of the reasons I was here with the Entertainment Industries Council and their Mental Health and Media Awards. So, I'm just trying to let everyone know you're not alone, and I get the emails all the time. Thank you. I am not alone. I didn't know that. Now I have the strength to at least take one step into recovery. And it's a long step. It could be 1,000 steps, 10 steps. It's a process for everyone, and the process is different for everyone.
Okay. Now that you've written the book and you're talking to people, and you're talking to the media, you're talking to people and huge audiences. Do you like yourself now?
I still have, you know what? I still have thoughts. People, I get asked, "Are you cured?" And I say, you know what? What does that mean to you? It may mean something different to me, because do I still have eating disorder thoughts? Do I still have body disimage thoughts that affect me? Absolutely. If I go to have a full meal and I'm feeling depressed or kind of off the beam, does the thought that I could just go to the bathroom and take care of this cross my mind? Yes, but I process it differently. You know, I have learned through a lot of therapy to substitute positive thoughts, to realize I am not my thoughts. And doing that, you know, I have been able to lead a full life. I am behavior free. I no longer engage in that. I'm clean and sober. I now can love. I now know how to let in love. I now trust, and I now allow people, you know, let people into my life. To me, that's cured.
That's great. So is it always going to be an eternal road to recovery that you'll be walking?
I have to look at it that way, because you got to remember, I started later in life. I didn't get into recovery until my 40s. So for me, it may be a process until I die. Somebody who starts earlier, there's all kinds of treatment now that I didn't go through, and all kinds of resources. They may be able to work through that and not have those thoughts. I think it's different for everyone, but I'm okay with that.
All right, great.
I'm okay with that.
All right, Brian, thank you. You are the man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you. Learned a lot this morning. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm sorry, Daryl, I cannot see that camera. Okay, again, the title of Brian's book is Shattered Image, My Triumph Over Body Dysmorphic Disorder. To learn more and to purchase a copy of the book online, you can visit Brian's website. That link is posted at kdka.com/PTL.